When Netflix does not cancel a project, is that actually good news? Or is it the biggest proof that the project has been abandoned to a silent death? Because let's be honest, sometimes Netflix does not say we canceled it, but it also never brings it back. The story stays unfinished, the characters are left hanging, and fans spend years asking the same thing in the comments. Where is the continuation? Today, we are stepping into exactly that weird waiting room. We are going to talk about 10 Netflix projects that have not been officially canceled, but have not received a continuation for years. And when you look at some of them, honestly, only one thing comes to mind. Netflix. Come on. If you were not going to continue it, why did you open such a huge door? Come on, let's see which projects are on the list. Red Notice 2. At the top of the list, we have A Meeting of Giants. Red Notice. Dwayne Johnson, Ryan Reynolds, and Gal Gadot. I mean, on paper, this cast already screams, you do not leave this at one movie. Netflix did not present the film like an ordinary action comedy when it was released either. Heists, betrayals, jokes, huge set pieces, and a finale that opened the door to a new adventure. Everything was telling us one thing. This is just the beginning. At one point, there was even talk that the second and third movies could be filmed back to back. At that point, everyone naturally thought this. Okay, Netflix is building its own big star-powered action franchise. But now we are in 2026, and there is still no Red Notice 2. Ryan Reynolds is somewhere else, Dwayne Johnson is in another project, and Gal Gadot is on her own schedule too. So where is this movie? How does Netflix leave a cast like this on dusty shelves? The issue here is not just let the sequel come. The issue is this. If you are not even going to continue a movie this big, which movie are we supposed to trust? Or did Red Notice become one of the most expensive examples of Netflix's make a big announcement, break records, then quietly walk away tactic? The Gray Man 2. In the same way, this was one of the movies where Netflix said, we can build a big action universe too. Ryan Gosling's court gentry character, CIA conspiracies, escape scenes, action sequences flowing like a world tour. The movie felt like Netflix was trying to give us its own Jason Bourne, its own James Bond. And this was not just our interpretation either. After the first movie, sequel and spin-off plans were announced. So Netflix officially gave the impression that this universe will continue. But then what happened? Silence. Court Gentry survived all those attacks, explosions, and betrayals, but he could not escape Netflix's waiting room. It sounds like a joke, but that is the situation. The Gray Man 2 still has not arrived, and you cannot help but think this. Did Netflix really see this project as a long-term universe? Or did it just create a one-time big action showcase with the names Russo brothers and Ryan Gosling? Because we have a character who can continue, a world that can expand, but no movie. Netflix. With this much material, what are you still waiting for? Damsel 2. At first glance, Damsel looked like a classic princess movie, but it actually took the princess gets rescued story and turned it upside down. Elodie, played by Millie Bobby Brown, was not a character waiting in a tower, afraid of a dragon, and accepting her fate. On the contrary, she was betrayed, they tried to sacrifice her, but in the end, she took her power into her own hands, and I think that was the best part of the film. As Elodie turned into a hero, the bond she formed with that dragon made the movie much more interesting than an ordinary fantasy adventure. But after the finale, one very clear question stays in your mind. Where is this girl going now? Because Elodie's story does not feel like it ended there. It feels like it has just begun. The first movie was her survival story. The second movie could have shown how she challenges the world with this new identity. Netflix has a strong face like Millie Bobby Brown, a dark fantasy world with dragons and themes of revenge and freedom. What more do you need? Even if Damsel 2 is not coming, at least someone should come out and say, this story ended here. Because after that finale, the silence feels a little too strange. The Old Guard 3. Now we have reached the biggest wound on this list for me, The Old Guard 3. Because the situation here is truly frustrating. The first movie came years ago. It was loved. And Charlize Theron's Andy was already a fantastic action character on her own. Then we waited for the second movie, and waited, and waited, and it finally arrived. But what did The Old Guard 2 do? It did not close the story. On the contrary, it opened an even bigger door. Discord, Quinn, Andy's situation, the future of the team, everything feels like it is supposed to connect to a third movie. And right at this point, Netflix is silent again. Enough already? Announce it. Because without The Old Guard 3, this story will really stay unfinished. This universe started with one movie and expanded in the second. But without a third movie, it does not feel complete. Andy's journey, the question of immortality, the team's fate, and the Discord threat are still hanging in the air. And the most annoying part is this. It feels so natural for this story to be completed as a trilogy that Netflix still not making a clear statement drives people even crazier. When you look at the comments, we are not alone either. Everyone is asking the same thing. Where is the Old Guard 3? The School for Good and Evil 2. This was one of Netflix's biggest fantasy opportunities. Just think about it. You have a magical world where good and evil are separated into schools. You have the background of fairy tales. You have friendship, destiny, and the question of who is truly good and who is truly evil. On top of that, there is a whole book series ready to go. So this world did not have to end with one movie. And honestly, even if the first movie was flawed in some places, the universe was very suitable for continuation. But Netflix entered that famous silence again. On one side, gothic teen projects like Wednesday are exploding, and on the other side, fantasy worlds are still attracting audiences. But the School for Good and Evil 2 is still nowhere to be found. Come on, you have a magical school, young characters, sequel books, and an open door at the end. What more are you waiting for? I do not know which one is your favorite among the projects I have mentioned so far, but I feel a little sad for this project. Because with the right touches, it could have become one of Netflix's young fantasy universes. Bird Box 3. When Bird Box came out, it truly became a major event on Netflix. Everyone was talking about the characters covering their eyes, the invisible threat, and that apocalypse atmosphere. Then Bird Box Barcelona came and showed us something very important. This disaster is not only happening in America, there is a worldwide nightmare. And this is exactly where a light bulb goes off in your head. Because this idea is not tied to one character, one country, or one story. If Netflix wanted, it could create a different story from the Bird Box universe for every country, every culture, and every survival group. What would it be like in Japan? What would it be like in England? What would it be like on a small island, in a crowded city, on a ship, or inside a subway system? This universe could literally expand like an anthology. But after Barcelona, Netflix hit the brakes again. And now the question is this. Was Bird Box really a universe that was going to grow? Or did Netflix just say, the first movie worked, let's try one international version too, and then give up? The Platform 3. How many of you said, so, what happened now? After watching The Platform 2? Because let's admit it, the second movie confused us even more than it answered anything. That vertical prison, that platform, those children, those rules, the invisible power behind the system. The first film was already disturbing enough, but the second film turned this world into an even bigger knot. And sometimes that is a good thing, if you are really going to untie the knot afterward. But the problem is this. If Netflix does not bring a third movie, this knot will just be left hanging there. The Platform series is not just made up of bloody and disturbing scenes. It is actually a very harsh metaphor about class systems, greed, order, obedience, and human nature. That is why The Platform 3 is not wanted just because one more movie should come. What is behind this system? What is the purpose of this experiment? Why are the children so important? Is there really a way out? Netflix, you cannot leave us alone with this many questions and run away. And if you do, this universe will remain incomplete. Leave the world behind too. When the first movie ended, most likely all of us had the same expression on our faces. Okay, but what happened next? Throughout the movie, the world slowly collapses, communication disappears, cities burn, people cannot trust each other, and even animals start acting strangely. But the movie does not spoon-feed us anything. We do not fully know what is happening. Who is attacking? What is the goal? Is America really collapsing? Has a world war started? Or is something more complicated happening? The movie leaves all of these questions in the air. Normally, uncertainty is beautiful in some stories. But here, the audience is split in two. One side says, no, this ending should stay the way it is. The other side says, man, I was this tense. At least I want to see what happens next. I understand both sides. But from Netflix's perspective, there is incredible potential here. Was that bunker a new beginning? What kind of America would the families find when they came outside? Was this disaster only the beginning? If Leave the World Behind 2 comes, yes, it would be very risky. But if it is done right, it could create an even bigger debate than the first movie. Nimona 2. Now, let's come to the side that hurts a little. Nimona. This movie was not just a fun animation. It beautifully carried the feeling of being an outsider. Identity, prejudice, acceptance, and, if you are calling me a monster, maybe the problem is not with me, but with you. Nimona as a character was chaotic, funny, sweet, annoying, and very fragile at the same time. In one word, she was unforgettable. Characters like that do not appear every day. That is why the Nimona 2 issue is a little different. Here, we do not necessarily need a huge cliffhanger. Sometimes the reason we want a story to continue is not unanswered questions, but the desire to see the character again. We would have liked to see how Nimona would live in that world from now on, how her bond with Ballister would continue, and whether the kingdom would really change or not. Netflix is not always very generous when it comes to giving sequels to animated films, but it would be a shame for Nimona, because there is still so much emotion left to tell inside this character. The Watcher Season 2. And now we have reached the strangest waiting room on the list, The Watcher Season 2. Because with the others, at least we say, maybe it comes, maybe it does not. But with The Watcher, the situation is even stranger. Netflix announced the second season of this series. Yes, you heard that right. This is not completely imaginary, and it is not purely fan theory. It was said that the series would return. The first season had already locked viewers to the screen with those disturbing stalker letters, the neighbors, paranoia, and the question of, who is the Watcher? But then years passed, and there is still no season. That is why The Watcher is the strangest example on this list. Because sometimes Netflix does not cancel a project, it even renews it, but then still leaves it in silence. What kind of waiting tactic is this? If the second season is coming, why is there this much silence? If it is not coming, why was it announced? The Watcher was already a series built on uncertainty, but apparently the biggest mystery is no longer inside the show, but inside Netflix itself. Is this season really coming? And this is exactly the common point of the projects on this list. Netflix did not clearly throw them away, but it also did not put their continuations in front of us. Some broke records, some came with huge casts, some opened massive doors in their finales, and some have been nowhere to be seen for years even though they were officially announced. Now I am asking you the real question. If Netflix were to bring back only one of these 10 projects tomorrow, which one would you choose? My vote goes to The Old Guard 3, because that story really feels unfinished. But maybe you are saying Red Notice 2, maybe Damsel 2, or maybe you are saying Netflix should keep its promise with The Watcher first. Write it in the comments. Let's see. If you enjoyed the video, do not forget to like it and subscribe to the channel. See you in the next video.